So hi, everybody, welcome. I'm going to scream into a microphone today because I've had like 3 cups of coffee. That's a good idea.
You have the energy for all
I have
of
the
us.
energy. Let's go. All right. So welcome to our game audio panel. If you were here last year, you saw a similar panel a little later in the day. There was more beer involved, I believe, beforehand. So it was a different vibe. But this one's going to be also fun and also amazing. I'm joined here by my friends Ben Burns.
Hello.
And Marc Straight. And I'm Alyssa Menes. So I guess we'll go talk about ourselves a little bit first, or a little introduction. So I'll start here.
Well, my name is Ben Burns. I have been working in game audio for about 5 to 6 years now. Primarily, I work to build an audience. I do a lot of Twitch streams. I do a lot of just music production as education. And I think that that's very fun. Oh, you're taking pictures? I was just going to pass it to you.
It's all good.
Yeah. But yeah, so I've been writing music for about 20 years, and it's been a lot of fun to do so. And I really am passionate about educating people on both how to write music and how to market their music, and just the whole creative sphere of how all that works. So yeah, that's me. Cool. Alyssa?
So I'm Alyssa Menes.
I keep saying it.
It's okay. I'm Cuban, so it's Alyssa. It's got like the little like Hispanic thing going on. So yeah, I'm a composer for video games. I'm currently working on a AAA thing that I cannot talk about, so please do not ask me what it is. You'll find out next year. Be patient.
2019?
No, this year I guess. Okay. 2018. This is already the next year. Anyway, I also run a video game music orchestra called the Montclair Gamer Symphony Orchestra. We've got some people in the audience from that. Yeah. It is the greatest orchestra in the world, in my humble opinion. It's full of the greatest people. It's the only orchestra in the world. And yeah, so I make music for games. I conduct this orchestra. I go to MAGFest, and they keep giving me panels for some reason. And yeah, that's what I do. So, hi.
All right. I'm Marc Straight. I'm a composer. I kind of work in a bunch of different venues for music, but I didn't start professionally in music. I started out as an actor for haunted attractions. Basically, I scared people for a living, and then I started doing scenic design to scare people for a living. And then I had always played piano, guitar, saxophone, but I don't play saxophone anymore.
Why not?
Because I just can't get into it, man. You either sound like you're trying to fuck somebody, or you're trying like way too hard to be jazz.
That's the point of saxophone. You play it so you can seduce somebody.
No,
obviously.
Listen, I'm not trying that hard. Anyway. yeah, right? Anyway.
Thank you, Mike. I was relying on that.
I played like a bunch of different instruments, and I eventually went to school for music, and then I finished school, I started making scary music for haunted attractions, and then that eventually evolved into me wanting to go into games, and I started making music for games. Yeah.
Okay, so I think primarily the reason why we're doing this panel is, or 3 of us, is because we all have very different both backgrounds and goals as musicians and musicians for other people, primarily games. So I think, I can talk about where I started. I'm just going down the list right now. I know we're going to reserve a lot of time at the end of this for Q&A, because primarily, we can talk about this, but I think a lot of the interaction here is just questions, because there's a lot of questions to ask for this, and we can't cover everything in an hour. So, like I said, I've been writing music for about 20 years, but I only started doing music for games about 5 years ago, and I've done probably about a dozen soundtracks since then. And yeah, like I said, I focus mostly on educational stuff. I have a YouTube series called Creative Exploration, which talks about how to run your creativity as a business and how to kind of think about how to think about things, if that makes sense, like mindful creativity. So that's kind of where I'm started right now, and you can talk about it. Yeah.
Sure. Well, I got started in game audio. It's back in 2014 or so. I think partially inspired by being here at MAGFest, which is really cool. I started on this game called Blackwell Epiphany. It was like my first kind of gig in the games industry, and I made the ending song for that, so that was really fun. And yeah, I've been working on games since then. You know, a lot of indie stuff, and like I said, now I've just moved into AAA, which is really fun. It's a really whole other beast. It's really exciting. I'm also teaching as well now, so I kind of started out teaching lessons, music lessons, before I got into game audio, but now I kind of went back full circle, and I'm teaching at Bloomfield College as an adjunct professor. So
That's cool.
that's been really fun. Teach sound design for visual media. Have my students record like crazy sound effects, and they all love it, so it's great. And yeah, so that's basically how I got started. Again, through Blackwell Epiphany, coming off of a teaching background, now in AAA and back to teaching. So kind of went full circle-ish, I guess. Maybe, I don't know, some different shape because it's slightly different. I don't know.
Oblong.
Oblong, full oblong.
Yeah, after I was done making, well, I still make horror stuff a lot, but I started wanting to do games a lot because it was like, most of the haunted attraction stuff is basically making soundtracks for games because it's all closed loop, ambient stuff, and I was a big fan of Silent Hill and all that good stuff. So I started branching into games, and I've worked in that for about 8 years, and I've been doing that, and I kind of specialize in doing both sound design and orchestra and electronic music, and I kind of like how Ben is doing like more business focused stuff. I'm kind of I've been focusing on a slightly similar but different goal with mine. I'm actually trying to focus more on the longevity of residual income through album releases, and eventually my goal is to just be the Kanye West of composers, where I'm just dope and I do dope shit, and that's the end goal for me. So we have similar goals, but mine's a little bit more like I want to travel to different places and make weird shit.
Yeah.
So
It's a good goal.
Yeah, and like my goal is building a community, and that's I think that's another reason why we wanted to have all three of us up here again, because we all have very different goals for the future as well. Like I want to build a community based around education and teaching new people how to make music for games and stuff like
and
that.
I'm way too antisocial to have a community. Like as soon as people they're like, hey, you want to hang out? I'm like, yeah, I'll hang out in my bedroom. And
Yeah, do you have
that'd be a great
Skype?
time. I'll Skype you guys while you hang out.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, there he is.
There's Wario.
Did you see I shouted you out in the panel description this year?
I saw you caught for it, baby.
It's not a game audio panel without Guy in Wario costume. So we're talking about goals,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, and yeah, go ahead. I mean, my goal was just to build a community
Build a
and
community.
teach people.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I'm into the whole education thing too, and, kind of like helping people get into game audio and everything. But I don't know, I guess my goal is just make awesome music for games. So, make a living doing what I love and what I'm passionate about and what I spend time in school learning how to do. And this is kind of just what I wanted to do with my life, and happy to be doing it. So, yeah. I don't know. I might have a better goal later on.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think, well, Mark, you already kind of talked about your goal, and I think that it's valuable to have goals, but also make sure those goals are flexible as well. Like you don't just set a goal and don't change it if like things happen in your life. Like you always want to reevaluate your goals and make sure that you're moving forward in a direction that you want, but you still have flexibility to allow direction changes.
I kind of agree and disagree with that. So like the end goal is always the same, but how you get there is always ever changing. So like I focus, like I was saying, I focus heavy on residual stuff, but like the way that we perceive, like the reason why like residuals are something that are like stream revenue is the stuff that I focus on, is because like in the next 5 years we're fundamentally going to see like more and more albums are being purchased as a like I want to directly support you.
Yeah.
But like Taylor Swift makes more money off of Spotify alone than she does in album sales. Just Spotify gives her more money than her albums, because like the amount of money that she makes per listen, it eventually equals up to be much, much higher than anything she's going to sell. Because who the fuck owns anything that runs a CD? Like, okay, raise your hand if you have something in your house that runs a CD.
My car.
Wow, I suck. Like, I have besides my computer, which I load things into and forget that they're in there for 9 months. Like I don't have anything that runs a CD, and that's more and more common. So like I bought a Zelda album for a friend of mine, and she was like, "This is great, but I have no way of listening to this right now." And I'm like, "Fuck, I forgot." So it's like, that's something I really like. I'm really passionate about. So sorry I cut you off.
No, it's okay. And even if like CD players and stuff exist, as a smaller independent artist, it's much harder to get that out to people. So focusing on digital, especially right now and in the future, is so valuable.
Yeah.
And streaming specifically, because as nice as selling an album is, it doesn't really help with discoverability. Because if people know you and like your work, then they'll buy the CD or they'll buy the Bandcamp download. But if they don't know you, they're going to find you on Spotify, and that's where you're going to get a lot of discoverability as well, or YouTube, or any of the other streaming services, because there's just so much out there now.
Yep.
So focusing on getting your music to stream is very valuable as well.
I have nothing to add about that.
Okay.
You guys covered everything.
So, let me say something about this.
Okay.
So this is like the big thing that I've been wanting to talk about for this. So like, as a composer, you're like everyone, if you're just starting, the biggest thing you have to focus on is how you curate your base. So when you're just starting out, it seems daunting, right? It's like scary. Like, I'm making something, I'm putting it out in the world. But fuck all that. It's better for you to make something and to contribute to the world than to have your perspective lost. You have an entire life of experiences that no one else has had. And because of that, your perspective of music is going to be fundamentally different. You are like, your contribution to the world musically is valid because people will relate to it. People that you never will meet are going to resonate with it, and you could better someone's life with it. You could add to the escapism that they need with it. And like, that's really like, don't think selfishly as to like, I don't think I'm good enough, because fuck that. There is a market for everything. Someone auto-tuned Nirvana to be in a major scale and people love it. There's a market for everything, guys. Like, please understand. Like, so make shit and then find an audience, because there's an audience for everything. Like, I made, I recently made a Dark Souls inspired album. Bunch of dark orchestra, really creepy shit. I did not think it was going to do well at all. And people really loved it. And to this day, that was a major shock to me, because I'm used to doing like horror and EDM shit, and I was like, oh, let's try orchestra and see how people like it. And people, it was like, awesome, okay. And then I realized afterwards, when I was on Spotify, that the amount that I got off of Spotify and like streaming services outweighed the amount that I got from sales. And so whenever you're making your stuff, make it in a way that you have different reference points. People find artists on YouTube. Like, that's the most amount of music that people listen to is on YouTube, not on Spotify. Whenever they find something from like hitting listening to like fucking Blackmill or whatever, they go from that, and then 9 things later they're listening to like yodeling from the middle of fucking Switzerland. Like, somewhere in between there's gonna be like music that they find that they enjoy, that they go back to, and they're not gonna look for it on YouTube. They're gonna look for it on like Google Play music services, Spotify, Pandora, all that shit. So whenever you're making stuff, make it to where like there's different venues that can be covered, so that you can always have music that's listenable. The main thing about it is like making your stuff available everywhere so that it can generate you revenue. And money is not a bad thing for an artist. Like, please don't go into music thinking that money is a negative thing. Money empowers you to be able to buy better software, to make better things, to pay rent, to feed yourself, to feed your family, make sure your mom has good clothes, make sure to buy Christmas presents, birthday presents, all this other shit that happens in your life.
What is in that?
Like, money is like,
What is in your drink?
no, I'm just saying, like, this is
No, I
like,
know,
I've been really frustrated about this shit, because I have arguments about like people that glorify starving artists, and I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
That's not a place for
Wait,
this
you
anymore.
mean when I'm making music for your game, that I can't pay my rents when you pay me in exposure?
Yeah, fuck that.
Like, hey, Alyssa,
Yeah.
do you can work on my project and you can get some exposure, and be like, fuck you. I have like, look at my Twitter following.
Okay,
Like,
Yeah.
I have an addendum to this, okay?
All right.
and some people might not like this, but exposure does have value when you're in control of that. And okay, and this is a very important thing, because if you get, you shush. Exposure does have value when you put the value on it. If somebody is not paying you and they are just saying, well, we'll just give you exposure, it's okay, then you should run the hell away. But there are times where you have opportunities that either remix contests or something else where you might be giving up some partial rights to your song. I still think that has value.
Okay, that does have value.
Yeah.
But whenever the dude is like, "Oh, this is a passion project,"
Oh yeah,
like,
no.
As soon as someone says passion project, like
Passion project.
that word is not happening.
Passion project.
Whenever someone says that they're doing that, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
but I still pay every single fucking person that I
Yeah.
work with on every
Yeah.
single album that I do, and that's that's a passion project. Like, so
Yep.
fuck you, and like
Yeah.
actually get money to pay people. Like,
It's like, I don't really have money to pay you right now. It's like, well, I don't really have time to make
Yeah.
music for you.
I don't have time to make music for free.
that's
So
absolutely not. But like for contests and stuff like that, that's I'm all
Yeah.
about that. Like
Yeah.
that's fine because that's fun. If it's like if you're doing it like whenever it's a product, I want there to be like if it's a product for someone that's eventually going to make money off of it. Nah.
Oh, yeah.
Like nah. There's no
Yeah.
way that I'm going to make you money and then not be able to like pay my rent.
yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah, if my client is making money, I'm making money.
Yeah.
That's how it works. But
Yeah.
there are times where you can take the value of exposure and that can be like super important. Like you might take a slight pay cut because this is a very big, like well-known project or something, and I think that's valuable.
Yeah, and I guess
Yeah.
you do it on your own terms, and
Yeah,
if you're
yeah,
like,
it's different for everybody.
yeah, your mileage may vary, and like, just make sure at the end of the day that you're not getting screwed over,
Yeah.
and like your definition of screwed over could be different than somebody else's. Like somebody's like, no, I want this money, this amount of money right
Yeah.
now, otherwise I'm not doing it, and that's fine. Or somebody else is like,
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm getting a little less, but this is going to be really good on my resume or whatever. You decide that, you figure that out, and if that resonates with you, then go for it, do it.
Yeah. As long as you're in control of that part
Yeah.
of that's the important part.
But don't let anybody.
But
like,
don't let anybody tell you what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you have to discuss that stuff. And talking about money sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like one of the first or second things that you should do when you start seriously talking to a client.
You ever pitch out a number to a client and then they just don't reply? You imagine, the Homer Simpson gif when he just like backs up into the bushes and you're like, yeah, so my rate's gonna be this, blah 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 blah, and I like send in the number, like here you go, here's the number, and then they just like drop off the face of the earth. Like they're never to be found or seen. They're not on Twitter anymore. Their Facebook is deleted. They just like went into the woods and they were so shocked my number because they just couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
So the Homer Simpson gif when he's backing up into the bush, or if you like the one he's backing into the pizza, I think that's also a good one. But similar thing.
So on the topic of rate and like working for free, like for people that are just starting out, a good idea is there's a label or a publisher called Materia Collective that I'm a part of, and I fully support, especially for emerging artists, because it allows you to make a remix album, and it's really fucking cool. So you get to like start out on stuff that you can do like at home in between projects, and as a way to establish yourself. So if like I released Souls and Blood through Materia. I'm releasing 2 albums this year through Materia, and like one is a remix album that I did like just in my spare time, and I turned a bunch of different music game soundtrack like songs into music boxes, and I just did this because I was like, that's cute, it's fun, and I really like doing it. And then like I'm taking like one song from every Final Fantasy that I played and making it dark orchestra instead of like the original setting. And I did this just because like when I'm in my free time, I want to make cool stuff, and I want to make stuff that isn't like out there right now. And I think that's like it's really good. Like you were saying, like working for free on your terms is fine, and especially for emerging artists that want to get their taste recognized, their perspective recognized, it's good to do like things that are attached to other brands that you can climb up based off of the following of that brand, because they can be like, okay, this guy works in games, this guy makes game music, and I like his or her style. And like by the way, sorry I say guys a lot. I just realized I did it, and so fuck me for that. Anyway, but like really just focus on your perspective and style, and like do remixes, do like do different styles of stuff that's there or stuff that you're inspired by. Like make a Mega Man album that's just in the style of Mega Man. It doesn't have to be for a game. Just make stuff, and that shit's awesome. So like make things that are like that you can showcase your work in.
No, it's fine. And I was just working off that where it's valuable. It's very hard to get a job if you don't have a portfolio, and it's very hard to build a portfolio if you don't have like focused work. So doing remixes, doing albums that would be for like a fictional game, and doing that kind of stuff, and just making music for fun. Just having a portfolio is so valuable, and it's hard to get a job without a portfolio, and sometimes it's hard to get a portfolio without a job, but you have control over the portfolio.
Yeah.
So you can just start making music and don't stop making music until somebody hires you. And I think that's really valuable as well.
Like I'll talk to people and they'll be like, oh, how do I get into games? And I'll be like, well, okay, do you have some kind of showcase of your work? Do you have a portfolio? No, I haven't really worked on a game. I'm like, that's just make something. Go into Logic right now. Make something. Put it online. There's your portfolio. And I think now is a good time to kind of put this in here. In a couple weeks is Global Game Jam. So does everyone know what Global Game Jam is? Yeah. All right. If you are looking to get into games, whether it's audio, programming, art, whatever it may be, I will implore you to participate in Global Game Jam. If you live what?
We're on the podium. Tell them.
I'm telling you to.
This is a decree.
This is it. I'm going to nail this on your door. Be in Global Game Jam. Participate. Yeah. So go to Global Game Jam. If you don't know how to get involved, just Google Global Game Jam. Very easy to find. No matter where you live in the country, there's likely some kind of jam site near you.
Or the world, really. It's
in the
everywhere.
world, it's
global. Yeah.
Game Jam, So it is all over the world, no matter where you live in the world. And basically what you do is you make a game in 48 hours. It sounds insane. It's insane.
It's really fun.
But I see these guys here.
It's fun.
It's really fun. And you know what? At the end of the day, you get some very valuable things out of it. You get connections with other people you've worked with, and you get something you can put into your portfolio, because that's how you get started, is by doing stuff like Global Game Jam. Just make a game, you get some music in your portfolio, you get some sound effects, whatever it may be, and then you can start from there. You can start building it from there. You can do more stuff, make more music, just make as much as possible. If you want to get into what you want to do, you have to do it. That's all there is to it.
And connections are just as valuable as your portfolio as well.
Oh, yeah. I think it goes into networking.
Yeah. Oh, wow. We're down there already.
Yeah.
But, we're also, not really.
Just real quick.
Okay.
Whenever it comes to your portfolio, like your visual portfolio, you control what people see.
Yep. And the order in which they see it.
Remix, redo trailers, redo gameplay videos, and stuff like that. And the other thing is on your resume for titles you shipped. The Global Game Jam is great because not a single motherfucker that goes through your resume that sees oh, this is a game. Okay, they're just gonna move on. They're not gonna check. Not a single person has ever looked at my Game Jam stuff and been like, oh, this looks like hot garbage. No one does that. It's just oh, he's for me, he's shipped titles. He's done this, and this. Okay, cool. What does his reel look like? Your reel outweighs your titles at all times.
Yep.
So make sure your reel is remixed stuff, redone trailers. I redid gameplay for what was it? What was it? It was a Metroidvania thing. Anyway, I redid a bunch of stuff when I was first starting out, just for the sake of having a portfolio. And
Axiom Verge?
I think so.
Oh, really?
Actually. I redid that just because I wanted to.
Oh yeah.
I knew a game that it's not Smash Brothers. Wow.
But that, and also for Global Game Jam, sound designers are invaluable.
Yeah.
You will get so much work. You will not. You will lose your mind with the amount of work you will get on for sound design.
Sound design
is
super fun too.
Oh, yeah.
To Trojan horse your way into doing music, because eventually. If you become a good sound designer, you're going to get a project where we have to hire a composer. Mm-hmm. Well, I happen to do music as well as sound design. Mm-hmm. Would you like me to do music for you? Well, you're already on the team, so that's great. Don't finish that sentence. I'm already going to start. That's another really good strategy to go into and especially Global Game Jam helps you out a lot with that. So. Do Global Game Jam. Fucking do it. There's no excuses not to do it.
If all of you don't do Global Game Jam this year, I'm going to be so mad.
Yeah.
That's a very empty threat, but no, you should do it. If you want to get into games, do it.
The thing is, there's also game jams going on literally every day.
There's online ones,
Yeah,
too,
there's
yeah.
a lot of online ones.
Asylum
And,
Jam.
Yeah, you
That's
can
my
you can
favorite.
find
Yeah.
a jam going on almost any weekend of this year. So you can. I think there's a website that has a calendar and it just lists.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hell
yeah, I think it's on Itch, but
that guy gets it.
But yeah, there's a jam going on almost all the time, and you can just go there and be like, hey, you guys need a musician, or just find the forum or whatever kind of Discord community that they're in, and just be like, hey, is anybody working on something that needs music or sound design or anything like that? And those connections are very valuable. Almost every job that I've gotten has been through a friend or a friend of a friend, and it's important to make friends with game developers if you want to make music for game development. And that's not like a sociopathic kind of way. It's just like, oh, I'm your friend now. But
Hey,
it's,
friends.
Yeah, exactly. It's like genuine friendships. Like you go to the Discord channels, you go to Reddit's R Game Dev or anything like that, and just try to meet people. And if you
Twitter,
meet,
too,
yeah,
like
Twitter hashtag Game Dev and all the other stuff.
Game audio, game dev, all that jazz.
And that it's so valuable to meet people that way. And once you meet people, you have connections. And if you have connections, people will come to you and ask for advice or maybe work. And the thing that I like to ask is, like, if you need to borrow a cup of sugar or somebody needs to borrow a cup of sugar from you, are you going to give that sugar to somebody you know or a stranger? And you'll give that to somebody you know, because it's a trust thing. You have a rapport with that person. And it's like, if you know people will come to you for music, and it's very valuable. And cold calling people and all that stuff, that still works. Like going out and emailing game developers and being like, hey, I like this game that you're working on. I think it's super cool. And that can work too, but it's less valuable than having connections.
Yeah.
And
The two big projects, well, the Divinity Original Sin 2, me working on that was me cold emailing somebody and be like, hey,
Oh, yeah,
do
it
you guys
works.
need help with anything? They were like, do you want to edit vocals? And I'm like, oh God, sure.
no, but yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
That
and
works
then-
sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like, especially if you're just like, if you want to work on some cool stuff, like, email people that have Kickstarters. That like, the cold emailing works, especially for people that are in the development stages of games.
Very early development.
Yeah.
You can sometimes get in there too.
People with Kickstarters are usually looking for sound people, and even if they have like a track on their Kickstarter video, like most of the time that's on that's
from, like,
on
Compotech
that's
or
on
whatever.
Fiverr or some bullshit. And don't ever put your shit on Fiverr. If I find out you did it, I'm gonna be mad at you.
That is not an empty threat.
Yeah, that I don't make empty threats. I will find you. All right. But yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to throw in, I think we're almost done with you. We can go to QA after
Yeah,
this.
totally.
But, did anybody see the Brandon Alexander panel yesterday? Yes. Okay. He talked about imposter syndrome, and I wanted to talk about this real quick because it's so important to not devalue your work or think that it's awful, because your work does have value, and that's kind of where we started with this too. But it's like, don't think that your work just isn't worth sharing, and because you might be new or because you think that you're trying something new and you think it sucks. Somebody will like your music. You just have to find the person that likes it. And there's always room for improvement, but if you don't get feedback, if you don't put it out into the world and like get feedback and responses from people, you won't know how to improve. Like, you can't work in a vacuum for this kind of stuff. So like, imposter syndrome is very hard to get over. But it's worth trying. And I don't know if you have.
I mean, when you start at some point, like, if you're getting started on anything, like, your first efforts are going to suck, and that's just how it is. But you have to push past the suck.
Yep. Be awful until you're not. That's
Exactly.
kind of how it goes.
Just keep practicing and just keep doing what you're doing, and that's how you get to turn around. So don't let feeling like, oh God, I don't know how to make music hold you back, or I don't know how to arrange this thing, or just do it.
And don't let shitty people on the internet get you down.
Oh yeah,
there's always going to be awful people.
Oh, there's
on the
always,
internet.
You know what? Actually, recently, I was just I was posting myself just kind of jamming on some Luigi's Mansion music on my acoustic guitar, just playing it, and some guy comments, who's like, "It's kind of incomplete, this arrangement." And I'm like, I was literally just noodling on the thing, and he's like, "Okay." Yeah, you still get I still get criticism on my work. It still happens. I've been making music for a really long time, and I still get.
You never
shit.
stop. Like,
Yeah.
I know some people who have 20,000 followers on YouTube, and There's still people like trying to give him advice on how to make his music better. It's like, you know, you're the artist. So like you should always have control over your work, and you should always take criticism, but put it through a filter first. Like figure out what is actually worth listening to and worth like applying in your work.
I had after I released Meet the Light last year, or Meme the Light now as I like to call it, I had this like 16-year-old kid who's like constantly like on acid and shrooms and stuff. He's like, he messages me on Facebook. He's like, I listened to your album and you know I can give you some advice on how to make your music. I'm like, I am a 31-year-old professional musician and you are a high school kid who does acid all day. I am.
You're older than me?
You're younger than me?
Yeah, right? Holy shit, you look like I'm 29. What the fuck?
I
I'm the
am.
youngest one in the panel?
Yeah.
Are you? Oh, he's the
How old did you
baby.
think I was?
18?
Oh yeah. This
Sorry,
beard.
I
I
just
had this
derailed
beard
the
at
shit out of
12.
Yes. No, you were born with the beard. It's actually a fact that when Ben Burns was born, he had
A full beard.
full beard.
Yep.
He was born with it.
Everyone from Minnesota, when they're born, has a full beard.
And a plaid shirt.
Yes. Oh, yeah, yeah.
So I think that's really all we had to talk about.
I do want to say some, some stuff real quick.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
So, imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
Real quick about that. So it's like imposter syndrome and kind of along with writer's block are going to happen.
Oh yeah.
At no point do I ever feel like I'm good at my job. I'm just really good at fooling people that I'm
Yes.
good at my job. And that's kind of how if you don't feel confident, just know that everyone else is confident in you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be getting people listening to your shit.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Your perspective of your own work matters only to the point where you think this sounds okay, and then everything else after that does not fucking matter, because you're going to be a big ball of insecurities the moment that you press send on that album ship out.
I think all artists are big balls of insecurity.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just have to, not care.
I think everybody from just starting out to
Yeah.
the super professionals still don't know what they're doing sometimes.
I don't know where I fall on that, but I'm a
Yeah.
big ball of insecurity all the damn time about that. So it's like, don't worry. Everyone is suffering the same amount as you at some point. And the other thing with writer's block, it's gonna happen, but the only way to combat that is to keep writing through it.
Yep.
Like, at some point, you're gonna make garbage, and the only way to get past making garbage is to make garbage, and less garbage shit is gonna happen. Like, that is the most true statement for fixing writer's block that is possible. And then as far as making shit, make stuff, like, again, I cannot stress this enough, make stuff that people can hear. People can find, the stuff on Spotify, stuff on Google Play, and stuff on YouTube. Having a YouTube presence is good for building up your Bandcamp page, building up your Spotify page. Always have that stuff going so that any available medium, except for SoundCloud, because that doesn't make you money, so
Nope.
fuck that.
SoundCloud is
Please
kind of
don't.
garbage,
Oh my
unfortunately.
God.
Like anything
It's
that could
good for
possibly
sharing things.
further your
Yes.
career to
Embedding
have people
links.
listen and discover you, have those as venues and have those as stuff that you will have to further yourself as an artist. So yeah, don't stop, just keep going forward and keep making cool shit for the world.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about Spotify and other streaming services. If you're not familiar on how to get your stuff on there, I highly recommend DistroKid, which is, I'm sure you have opinions on that.
No. I mean, I have opinions on everything, but DistroKid, I've heard only good things about.
Yeah,
but I also don't like paying per month for it.
It's per year. It's $20 a year.
Oh.
DistroKid is $20 a year. It allows you to
Girl.
basically upload as much music as you want, and you get 100% of the royalties from streaming. I highly recommend DistroKid. At least check it out. There are a lot of other services out there. Some of them are you pay X amount, but you only get a percentage of the royalty. So, and DistroKid is very good at being a very bare bones thing. Like you get this, and you get support if something goes wrong, but you don't get any hand holding in the whole process. But if you want to get your music on streaming services, DistroKid's a good option. And there's if you Google it, there's probably a ton of other options too.
Yeah.
So I think we can go to
Do
Q&A
some
now.
Q&A,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So who wants to kick this off? Green hat, and then you over there, or you over there, Virginia Tech, and then green hat. Green hat. Hi.
So, speaking towards a writer's block,
Yeah.
in sort of an objective setting, or even just in personal work, when you're working towards a project, how do you sort of force yourself to keep consistently making songs for like a soundtrack for a game or some form of media at a consistent rate, and instead of just like sitting in front of the screen and being like, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
So a method I like to use
Well, first
when
we have to repeat the question.
Oh yeah,
That's the
so
rules.
that's true. So he asked, how do you basically just kind of get yourself to keep writing
Power through
music,
writer's
power through
block,
writing
yeah.
music for a certain game, and that can be very difficult because you could get like kind of stumped on a game, or you
Yeah.
can kind of feel like you're in a rut because you're writing the same music,
Style.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
same style or whatever. One thing I like to do for this is when I have to write kind of songs for a single game soundtrack is when I'm getting started on a new song, I'll just come up with like kind of little song snippets and ideas first, kind of like little 10-second snippets to have some various choices. And then I'll send those over to the developer so they have some little things to pick from. Instead of kind of just like doing one song and then just sending them that, I give them some options for each song so they can kind of, listen to what resonates with them and then kind of go from there. And then that helps me keep things fresh too, because I'm always getting ideas out, and then I can just once me and like the developer can kind of settle on an idea, then it's like a lot easier for me to kind of finish that song rather than just trying to start and complete one song, which I feel like is more of a, I don't know, it's a little tougher to do that, because then if that song doesn't quite work out with the developer, or that doesn't quite fit in the game, then you kind of get stuck in this rut and you're just like, oh, I love this song, but the developer doesn't like it. Oh God, what the hell's wrong with that?
Iteration is super important.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Another thing that I do is if I get stuck, I find games with similar style games, and I look at the music for that. And I can take inspiration from all that. Obviously, I'm not just like copy pasting into the other thing, but I can take inspiration, like the themes, the rhythms, and all this other stuff. I can take all of that, and I can incorporate it into the music for the game that I'm working on. One thing that I did for like a desert level, I was super stumped on a desert level. I listened to just a ton of Mario desert level songs, and it's just like you can find all these commonalities between all the songs in these Mario levels, and then you can like pull all of that stuff into your own music, and that's at least a jumping off point for inspiration. Like you don't have to keep it, you don't have to do anything like that, but at least you have something to start off with, so you can just move forward from there.
So my strategy is really weird and different than everyone else's, but I work on a lot of shit at once. Like I'm working on 6 different games at the same time.
That's too much for me.
For different things, and not all of them are for soundtrack. 3 are for soundtrack, and then I'm making another album on the side for me. So I run this as in like a 2-hour set. After I work on something for like 2 hours, unless I'm really feeling it, I stop and I'll hit save, close, open up a different project and all of them have like different motifs and styles. So like some things are like super atmospheric, then I focus on those, and then I go to something that's really like melody focused. So like it gets different parts of your brain working at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And like in between those two things, I take like 10 minutes to not listen to a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
I put in earplugs, I just chill, and I don't meditate because my brain doesn't let me chill, but like I just kind of like listen to nothing, and then it like hard resets my ears. I'm like, okay, I don't have a migraine anymore. Let's go back into the sound mines.
Yeah, like limiting yourself to 2 hours to make something, and then just taking a break from it is really valuable too. I have that weekly stream, the 2-hour track challenge, where I sit down and write a song from start to finish live, and it's super fun because it's basically like going to the gym for me, where I just sit down and I just bang out a song, and seriously, it's not always great, but at least it's something that I did, and it's something that I'm happy with, and being able to just sit down and work on something consistently within a very strict time frame is really good exercise for making music for games, because when you make music for games, you have to do a lot of music, often very quickly, because music is sometimes the last thing the developer thinks of before the game is released.
Mm-hmm.
One of the albums that I might be doing is 100 songs.
Yep.
Woo!
You need to do a lot of music.
Yeah.
And it's good to have the skills necessary to just sit down and work on something. And even if it's not perfect, you can always go back and iterate on it later with the developer, but you can always just sit down and bang something out really fast. I think that's really valuable.
I want to add one more thing, one more thought to this.
Sure.
Is a very good question.
Yes.
So one more thing that actually really helps with writing stuff, and it's going to seem kind of weird, is having an organized template for your music. So something I recently started doing in Logic, the software that I use to make my music, is that I've established a couple different templates based on the genre of music I might have to write. So I have like a rock template, orchestra template, and electronic music template. And basically what it is that I have those tracks that I need to use basically ready to go. Certain plugins are on those tracks ready to go. For the orchestra setting, it's like all my orchestra instruments are loaded and just basically ready to go. So
Yeah, saves so much time.
Yeah, and when you have to write, you can just sit down and write. You don't have to worry about setting up your project from scratch again. So that's something I highly recommend, is working off some kind of template, and it's going to really help make the writing process a lot smoother.
Yeah, I did that for the electronic album I'm doing. Everything is designed off of Open Heart, which is one of like the main songs. So like I open up, it's like Open Heart template 5 or some shit, and then I open it up, I delete everything, and I start off with just all those instruments loaded, because I'm like, okay, this is the most successful song, and then so I'm just gonna build stuff around this, and like so it helps you keep the same feel for things, and then you can add and detract as each song varies. Anyway, we gotta go to the
Oh
next
yeah,
one.
we had this question, and then we'll go over here. So
I'm just curious, for each of you, what is the most important book to read involving, anything that involves the book?
That's interesting.
Okay. I mean, I've been.
Yeah,
You want to go first?
No, go first. I have to think about this one.
I've been
I
reading
don't-
a lot of books this year. Books are great. My friend Angela would agree. And I just think it's not exactly related to game audio, but I think one of the most important books I've ever read is called "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday, and it just it basically kind of like gets you to how can I describe this? It's there's a lot of challenges in your life, and it kind of like prepares you to how to overcome those challenges, basically. And getting into this field is very challenging. It's not going to be easy. You're going to deal with a lot of failures and rejections, and that book really kind of just it really gets you to change your perspective on things like failure and rejection, and you can take that failure and turn it into something else. Like you're gonna fuck up, you're gonna be rejected by clients, you're gonna have a lot happening, but like if you can just like kind of pick yourself up, brush yourself up, and keep going, then that's really important. So I'd recommend that book. It's a very quick and easy read. It's such a great book, though.
Okay, I had to Google the guy's name. "Steal Like an Artist" by Austin Kleon. I love that guy's book because it talks about how you can incorporate all of these ideas that's already out in the world. You can take all those ideas and bring them into your own work, and I think that's really valuable. He also has another book called "Show Your Work," which is also very important, which is also why I do the 2-hour tracks challenge on live on stream, because it's so important to show how you do stuff, because people are interested in that, and that's more of a streaming thing, not really a game audio thing, but I think that it's still valuable. So "Show Your Work" and "Steal Like an Artist" are 2 books, and they're very short. They're like really thin and tiny, so worth reading.
So I have 2. One is highly unrelated to anything productive, but it will fuck up your brain in great ways and make you real creative real fast. It's called House of Leaves. Yes, there are other people that read this. If you want to, if you ever want to make some really weird, like if you ever want to make your brain think in really weird ways, read this book and then immediately make music. Just start reading like 3 chapters, make some music, because you will make stuff that you never considered before, because that is an adventure. I highly recommend that everyone read this book and then just take like a week to not read anything and just digest the craziness that you just read. The other thing is that it's more productive. Anything by Adam Croft. He is a personal friend of mine. Just to let everyone know, that this is with weight. That he's a personal friend of mine, and he really he strives to give information about like the business side of things. He's making an entire book about breaking into the industry, which is fantastic. And he's a great source of information. So anything by Adam Croft, I would highly recommend. He has a blog that's up for free. His book is like $10. But yeah, those are my 2 things.
I can't help it.
That was a really cool question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a great
thank you.
questions.
Yeah.
All right, we had a question in this vicinity. I forget
Back
who
there,
back
Black
there.
Hat, I
Black
think.
Hat. You're all named by your hats.
So
Yeah.
if you don't have a hat, you don't get a question.
I'm choosing long-haired guy in the back next.
Long hair guy in the back. All right.
After this.
So, you touched on it briefly. Software.
Software.
What do you guys use?
Just
I-
We all use.
I
We
use
don't
Ableton.
have enough time.
Yeah.
Logic Pro.
Omnisphere, Logic Pro, anything that's on sale for $1.
There's a lot of good plugins that go on
Yeah.
sale like
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
the time. Just scan
we could
Twitter
talk
for
about
it. Oh my
we could
God.
talk about plugins
The-
forever, but primarily like Ableton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Orchestra, East-West is the cheapest introductory point. It has a shitload. There's a composer cloud for $30
Composer
a
Cloud
month.
is great.
Yeah.
I'm a professor. I get that shit super cheap. That's awesome.
Fuck you. And the next.
I'm an
so-
adjunct. I'm not a person.
So, Orchestra East-West, anything synth-related, Massive, Serum, Spire. There's another one that begins with an S. I don't fucking remember it. What?
Silent.
That doesn't begin with an S.
Silent is good.
Yeah, there's a shitload. Just Google synths that begin with S, and then it shows up.
You'll find a lot.
Since that begin with
Si-
us.
Serum, Spire, Silenith. That was the stupid fucking word.
Why do they all weird names?
Yeah.
'Cause they have to sound
Silenith
techie and
are
cool.
the
Why
other
can't
is
they
the other
be called
one.
Cuddles?
All great synths, and then Complete of Complete. That
Yep,
has
Complete.
a shitload of
Complete,
great.
Complete.
Like
Yep.
if you just spend $1,000, get Complete of Complete. That will be your bread and butter for like a year of work until you get paid better.
Yep,
And then
that's what I did.
upgrade to like East West or even better than East West because I still use that shit. And
It's like
it's okay. But
Complete,
Spitfire.
Complete
Yeah.
11 is the
Adagio
newest version, and
strings.
Complete 11 will basically
Girl,
cover
it's
all
so
of your
good.
needs for like the first 5 years of whatever you need to do. Yeah, 5 years is a long
Software
time,
question.
and yeah. So let's
Yeah.
find another question here.
guy in the back with long hair.
Oh,
All right, Omnisphere is awesome, by the way.
Hell yeah.
I'm an IP contracts and corporate lawyer, and I'm going to use your answer in one of my panels. So here's the question.
uh-oh.
Talk a little bit about your relationship with the developers and the companies.
Ooh.
How often do you work without a contract? How often do things get rejected? And how often do you find yourself in never-ending loop?
I will never work without a contract.
Yeah.
Literally
I
fucking
learned the hard
ever.
way a long time when I started out. Working with a contract is 1,000% important.
Even if
It's-
you're working with your friends, like get
Yes.
a contract. It's not
Yep.
hard.
And
Yo,
okay, quick thing. A contract is not a scary thing. A contract is an agreement for work. You're basically making sure that everything that the developer wants and everything that you want is something that you agree upon.
Yeah.
And it's not something that's like, oh, I'm going to screw you over if we don't. It's like, no, it has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with making sure that you and the developer and everybody else involved are on the same page. That is what a contract is, and it's so important. It's not about trust. It's not about anything else. It's making sure that everybody knows what they're getting themselves into.
Yeah.
For me, that's what a contract is.
yeah. But like with contracts, there's no reason to work without one, no
Yeah.
matter what. And like I refuse. For your direct question, I refuse to work out without a contract because it's a safety blanket for me, so that if I fuck up, it's accountability. If they fuck up, it's I make sure that I get paid for all the work that I've done.
Yep.
And like so it was negotiations for the contract. A big thing is like bullshit terminology.
Yeah.
That is old girl. Okay, so That's
That's our name for the panel next year. Oh,
girl. Okay,
Oh, girl,
I
getting
just
in the game
finished
audio.
working with a client. I'm not going to name them because they're like solid, but they are the biggest harpers on like what terms mean what, and like I had to revise like the most minuscule details. And for people that are just starting out, like have templates per each circumstance. As soon as you encounter a new thing that you need a contract for, add the template to your reservoir of contracts.
Yep.
And like keep referring to that and just copy paste just terminal not just like names where needed, and that will be a good reservoir for you. Please do that because contracts are solid and they're good for you. But so like the biggest thing was like what happens if the game doesn't move past doesn't move past prototype stage, and then I had to notate that. I had to notate if they want to have exclusive license purchasing later on. I have to note, and then we argued about that because because the track that I made for them got a contractor from a paid television company. I'm not going to name them either. asked me if they would be okay if they purchased it for a show that they did, and I was like, kinda, but let me talk to this guy, and I talked to him, and he was like, technically yes, but I want to be able to get a portion of that. So it was like, it's the terminology of like who gets money if it's not exclusive, what happens if because it's not exclusive, and if someone buys the rights to it, how much of a window do I have of exclusivity because I'm only paying to be able to use the product, and those sorts of things. That's like the biggest thing that I've ever encountered. And most of the time, after you show that another company is interested in paying for it, they just say, okay, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars and just buy the rights to it, and you can buy some, and you can make something that's kind of the same for them. Mm-hmm. But anyway, yeah, that's my direct answer. If you guys have anything that's...
No.
I already answered.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this guy. Are you also from Minnesota? Because you have a beard. And, okay. Are you dressed as Paul Chuck
Oh, no.
from Jammer Lammy? Okay.
The guy with the glasses behind you must like raising his hand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guy with glasses behind this fellow will be next, but after.
How often are you guys using live instrumentation in your game audio work, and what goes into recording that?
You can start because
Yeah.
you know the most about this. I do have an answer though.
I play guitar, so almost all the time. And basically, what goes into recording that is I plug into my Focusrite because I live in an apartment building where I want to play my guitar amp and record that, and I can't do that because I want to be polite to my neighbors who are constantly fucking on the other side of my wall. By the way,
Good
the
for
wall
them.
is literally
Yeah.
moving.
Hell yeah.
As
She
I'm
tweets
trying
about that
to
a lot.
do work. Yeah, it's
Hell
like
yeah.
doing work at 2 o'clock at night,
Get a megaphone and cheer him on.
doing work at 10 in the morning. I need some sound effects. It is like. Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay, but I'm trying to be polite. So I use my Focusrite and
that.
plug my Telecaster in and do my shredding. So you just see like ding, 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 ding as the wall's going. But yeah, I use a lot of live instrumentation. I've had my friend Chris actually record a clarinet for me on Meme the Lights. I had people record, I've had people kind of, because I, run a video game music orchestra, so I have musicians. Leanne's recorded for me too, back there, yeah. So, I do this a lot of live stuff. Where I can. I mean, obviously budgets don't always allow for me to have like a full live group record, but what I'll do is I'll do some MIDI stuff like MIDI drums, all that stuff, and then some guitar, and then maybe have other instruments playing. And there's just like a mix of software instruments and real playing.
Yeah, and I am not a guitar player. I have.
You will be one day.
Someday, yeah.
Yes.
I primarily do electronic music, but I still think it's very valuable to have live playing in there, even if it's just a MIDI keyboard and inputting notes that way. Having the imperfections, like nothing is exactly on the grid, and I think that imbues a lot of very valuable emotion and interest into the song, where it's not just mechanically tick 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 tick. It's not just completely quantized.
So unless it's vocals, I almost never have live instrumentation just because I write at such a high rate, like a high rate of like this shit's done, I'm not going to touch it again, that usually like that is the biggest factor for most things. And that, and I'm working on electronic stuff, so I don't really like have a need for it right now. But I always have like a MIDI piano that I use, and I also write things in a weird way. Like every piano that I write, I will make one track of just the piano for the chords and one track for the melody, and then I will double the track for the chords, and I will add a harp as the secondary, and then I'll add an attack, which is basically the time that it takes to deliver the full note. I'll add a really high attack to make the piano chords sound real warm and wide and like a real full sounding chord. So I do like weird shit like that all the time, and I double up on like my staccato strings. And I cheat, and I put in like the staccato strings, I double it, and then I go through and I drop everything to like half power on velocity. For anyone that works with MIDI, this makes sense. For all of you else, I'm sorry. I drop it to like half velocity. I press the H button that says humanize, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then I go to the next one. I go to the next one, drop it to half, press H. All right, that's cool. And I listen to just those things, and I'm like, okay, where does this fuck up? And then I adjust where it fucks up, and I like customize it afterwards. But for the most part, I'm just like, I let that like the duality of two different timings allow it to be more human, and that kind of like stands
layering-
out. Also, we have
layering
the
is super
rapid
important.
fire questions.
Oh yeah. We had a question around glasses,
All right.
right? I think someone with glasses asked
Yeah,
a question.
you.
Yeah.
So actually, my question was also about software, so I want to put a twist on it.
Sure.
What's the most unexpectedly interesting or useful tool?
Omnisphere.
for your work?
A kazoo.
Omnisphere. Fucking yes. Okay,
Yep.
if you're a sound designer, don't fucking get Omnisphere. Do not get Omnisphere.
Are you breathing
Like,
the mic? Is that me?
Okay, the reason why is because if you use sound effects
not to.
on Omnisphere, if you use their sound banks and you use them as sound effects, they will sue the shit out of you.
Yep.
However, if you get Omnisphere
For
2,
music.
if you use Omnisphere 2 and you load in your own sounds and use them as a post house, which is what I do, they don't give a flying shit. Like there's no, they're like whatever, that's fine. So that is my suggestion. Even for like the stuff I do with Totem Teller, which is a game that I'm kind of working on. It's complicated. For Totem Teller, I load in my east-west sounds into Omnisphere and like mod the living shit out of them until they don't even sound real anymore. I make stuff that sounds synthy and like artificial from real sounds through Omnisphere. It is super fucking cool, and it makes like weird things, and I always suggest making weird things. So I would suggest
Yep.
that, and then anything you can get for like under $1 for starting out. Omnisphere is $400, by the way.
Ugh.
Okay, I guess that's the software. I have these 80s synths from you have UVI. They were on sale one day for $50, so I was like, why the fuck not? And I use them everywhere. They are so cheesy. Mike would be
Hell
proud
yeah.
of me. They're amazing.
Yep. And I got a 10-cent kazoo from my parents a while ago for some weird ass reason. And if you put auto-tune on that and run it through guitar filters, it's fucking rad. Yeah,
amazing.
it's super cool. So next question. I know Wario has a question back
Wario,
there.
we'll leave Wario for the ends.
All right.
Or Wario, you know, Wario, let's hear your question.
All right, this is a pretty serious question. No, I'm just kidding. Yes or no? Do you want a pizza?
Oh, pizza.
Is there pineapple
Oh,
on
this is
it?
a different. Oh yeah, is there pineapple on it? Pineapple's great.
Yes.
I love pizza. You know what?
I do not reflect the opinions of her terrible opinions on pizza involving pineapple. I just want to point that out.
Pineapple
I am a
on
good
pizza
person.
is great. You know, Wario. Wow, that was not what I was expecting. But yeah, I would love pizza.
I want a pizza here too.
Oh no! I walked right into that one.
no.
I got trips.
All right, I think we got time for like 2 more questions, and we're gonna be around after the
Yeah,
panel.
you guys
so
can
we
ask
can
us
always
questions.
hang out afterwards
Yeah. Let's
That
see.
guy.
Yeah.
So you talked about like the Global Gaming Jam.
Global Game
Global
Jam.
Game Jam.
Yep.
So what advice do you have for somebody who's kind of positioned themselves to hopefully make the leap from like a full-time job to doing like a full-time like separate job, like
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
into this field?
Yep.
You kind of touched on it here and there, but is there any other further advice, because you know there's only so much time to
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Like how do you get to that point where it's your career, you can invest 8 to 10 hours a day?
Yeah.
To start, like, you know,
So-
meeting people, go to like meetups in your area. You can even go on meetup.com, look for game developer meetups, and then like
Yep.
after work, start talking to people, start meeting people. You're gonna have to put in extra time
Oh,
to
yeah.
make that transition,
Yeah.
but you know it's totally doable. You might you know, over the weekends work on your game, but if
Yeah.
it's something you really want to do, you got to do it. And I know it's tough, like
Talk
you know,
to
save up
me-
money from your job and all that, and just try to.
Talk to me after the panel. I've been a full-time freelancer for like 7-ish years. So if anyone has that question, talk to me directly after the panel so we can have brevity.
It's all time management. I still have a day job, so it's
Yeah.
it's all time management. It's
Yeah.
hard, but you can make it work.
All right, next,
Next one.
you
In the middle.
with that.
How many revisions do you actually
A shitload. Next,
Revisions, yeah.
is that actually like the
You
full
can-
extent
you
of your
can both-
question?
you-
how many, like, when you're communicating with the game designer, he's like, oh, I like this piece, but can you fix that? Like, how many?
Ask a lot of questions about what they actually want in the beginning.
Get
'cause
reference materials
sometimes,
from
yeah,
them.
get reference materials. Sometimes they don't know what they want or they
Yeah.
can't articulate it.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of like pry it out
Yeah.
of them. So
I
no-
always ask, like, what songs do you listen to while you're making this game? What
that's a
songs
good
do
one.
you
Still a
like
shitload.
to? Yeah.
Yeah.
And there still is a lot of back and forth. Sometimes I send them something, they're like, oh, that's great, we're done. And sometimes they're just like, oh, well, I want something completely different. And that's when I go back to them and try to get more information on what exactly they're looking for.
This is why I kind of like cooking up a couple different little snippets of
Yeah.
songs, like 3 or 4 different little snippets. And if you give them a choice, they feel like they're more in control of what
yeah.
you're doing. And instead of just kind of giving them one thing, one option, give them a choice, and it'll go so much smoother. Because they'll be
Yeah.
like, okay, I kind of like A, don't really like B, I love C, D's got some good elements, and then you'll know where to go.
Yeah.
It's just a lot better. So. Little snippets of songs. Give them like a little smorgasbord to
Yep.
use a.
Yeah, and if they don't like something, you can always use that idea somewhere else
Yeah.
too. So you can keep it
Okay.
around.
You?
Hey, I want to flip the script on that question.
Sure.
If you are a game designer or developer,
Yep.
what are the questions that you might want to ask your sound designer or composer?
I like
Well,
you.
Yeah.
It's like
He's a cool guy.
the primary focus for me is always like your perspective on things. So
Yep.
give me references.
Lots
Give
of
me-
reference material.
If you give me 5 references of different styles and tell me why each one reflects on your decision of why they're a reference,
Mm-hmm.
that is the exact amount of material that I will need to be able to make something that you will like. Because as a professional, you can study a code and understand how that reflects into the game world. I can study music and understand how that reflects in the music world as far as what I'm trying to execute. So that's
Yeah.
why, like, whenever I look at John Williams, when I listen to like his music, I can dissect it and be like, this is why I like this, and this is why this is phenomenal, and I'll never be able to achieve it. And and so like imposter syndrome, everyone. So like I can so by giving me those things, I can give you a center point of all of those things combined. That is like but question wise, ask me how long this will take. Ask me how much time or how much time do you need to make it. Ask me if I need any other synths to make it and how much the funding will. Ask me how much extra funding I need to be able to make this and how it reflects in what you're paying me to make it. That is
Yeah.
the biggest one, because if I have to buy synths for this stuff, I'm usually not going to tell you, because I don't want you to feel like shit about it, because I want to be able to achieve what you want, and I want to be able to have the synths or like the sounds that I want, and that's just me as a person. However,
Yeah.
if you want to be like the best, like the client that I reflect on, and I'm like, if he needs anything and he doesn't have the budget, I want to work with this man or this person. Like, ask me if I have to buy anything, and try to contribute a little bit more if I had to buy something weird for it. Those are my big things. 'cause-
Communication, just
Yeah.
like
Very
assets that especially
Be
like
accessible.
how much music you're expecting too. Like if you just want like 4 loops, like they're really small, or if you want like the 100 songs, like that's a very different project.
Yeah.
So like what you're kind of expecting, and of course that can always change as the project evolves, but just communication. As much information as you have, just send that over to us.
Get them to
that's
play your
the most
game
valuable.
too.
Yeah.
I think it's really important.
Yeah.
I'm electively choosing the 100 songs, by the way. Like, I'm choosing to make that many.
Oh yeah. So I think we are out of time here, but
Let's take one more question.
One
'cause
more
the guy-
question?
yeah, they're not actively kicking us out yet.
Yeah.
Hi.
So hi.
Yeah, we'll keep going. The guy, okay.
And the sweater there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sweater.
Or-
Do you have to avoid crossing the line between remix and inspiration?
How do you avoid crossing the line between remix?
Inspiration and
Insp-
copyright.
So you mean like when we're writing music?
I come up with the greatest soundtrack in the world, and that just happens to be the same time.
Well,
Right.
good composers borrow, great ones
Yep.
steal.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like taking the aspects of what makes a composer great and like reflecting on them as far as like how or why they're structured that way. So like John Williams is a neo-romantic composer. That's probably not going to mean anything to a lot of people, but like you take why he structured or why the composer structures the music in the way that they do, and you take those parts and figure out what parts of those resonate with you and how your perspective of it can change it in different ways.
Yep.
So like my biggest thing is I heavily reference different pieces. Like Like the most recent one for a project I've been doing is I've been researching a shitload of Nine Inch Nails, and I listen to them recreationally too. So I just like, but like, what can you steal from Nine Inch Nails? Like he uses like there's nothing you can really like. Okay, I'm going to directly take this. Like none of that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like the aesthetics and whatnot are what you're going to take, and like how Trent structures tone is what really matters for those things. And like you're designing stuff that has their intent in mind that might not meet your intent but feels like theirs.
Yeah, and
it's
this
kind of
is
like being a chameleon.
a whole different world, but or a whole different topic. But this is where learning music theory and getting ear training is incredibly valuable.
I'm
because
terrible at that.
Because if you can listen to this stuff and pick apart exactly how it works, then you can take those like raw ideas and
And put 'em
incorporate
into your
them
own,
into
yeah.
your own work, into the own style for the game that you're working on.
If you don't have music theory training, or if you're just generally bad at it like I am, just if it feels the right vibe, go with it.
Yeah, it's music theory and stuff is a language, and learning that language just allows you to pick it apart better. But it's not a requirement. It's just something that helps. It smooths the process.
Guy in the back with the hat.
So I am a UI and UX guy.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Perpetually about to jump off the guy in that part.
Yeah.
My biggest fear has been triggered multiple times in this conversation.
Yep.
Contract law and the 100 song soundtrack.
Yeah.
As a UI person, there is nothing scarier than having a contract and getting to the end of it and being like, oh, by the way, we're about to blow the fuck out of this. We're about to 700 assets we didn't need
If-
2 days ago, and I think it should be. How do you manage that?
You-
Like, it takes you a whole lot more time to make
I have a follow-up question to hit.
asset slots than me and on the visual side. So
Yeah.
I'm terrified of like, oh, well, now I know you're invested in my contract.
That's what the
Yeah,
contract's
stipulate
for.
that into your put
Yeah.
that into your contract and say like I'm only here to make
Yeah.
30 assets,
Yeah.
or I'm only here to
Yeah.
make
The
X,
con-
Y, Z, and if they
Contract
go
has
over
like an
that,
article that says that lists out everything that you're planning on doing. That's where contracts are an agreement between what you're expecting and what the developer is expecting.
Yeah.
So that should be in the contract.
I guess to make more sense of this question is like, in terms of musical composition, the music is usually the last, like, at most points, the last thing that comes along.
Yeah.
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 Like, how can you possibly safeguard yourself against that, right? Like, other than like addendums to your
It's
The
no, it
initial
is
contract.
amendments to the contract. It's have the contract, and you whenever you talk to the person and they say we want like 20 songs, they're, okay, this is my rate for 20 songs. Or Totem Teller, like I said, is like I want to do 100 tracks. That I'm not. I said I want to work on this, and I said that I told the guy who's designing it. I said, if I am going to be the composer for this, I don't want a restriction of how many tracks that I do. I'm choosing to make 100 because I'm ridiculous.
Yeah.
But like amendments to the contract, like state how many things, like find out from the developer if you're like working a set amount, find that set amount, and if anything surpasses that, have a window of like the maximum is 20 with 2 extra as a possibility. Or something like legal bullshit like that. I don't know what terms are.
Yeah.
And then like after that, as soon as it passes the dose of that, you're just like, oh, so I see that you're pushing it to 27. Fun fact, you're gonna pay me for that shit.
Yeah, and that's in
then
the contract.
You slide on that contract and you say, okay, so it's this much money. Enjoy paying me because
Yeah.
I'm gonna enjoy cashing that check.
With games like the, sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Sorry. Exactly, yeah. I mean, with games, they inevitably, like, the scope always changes. There's always something, and I worked with developers who are very iterative, to say the least, and the scope always freaking changes. So you always have to protect yourself, because you don't get stuck doing extra work that you weren't paid for. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's having that clause in there. It's like if I go over this much, then I charge whatever per minute of music.
Yeah.
It's just that's all you have to do, and then you're protected, and then they know what they're getting themselves into. And you can always renegotiate the contract later if they're just like, okay, well, I want more music. Do you have time for that? If they're cool about it, then you can renegotiate it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Also, question for you: how do you feel knowing that that you work on the one part of game design that stresses me out the most?
Exactly the same.
Okay, good. I'm glad that we're both.
Work on the part that stresses me out.
Yeah. Every time they're like, "You want to make UI sounds?" I'm like, "Yeah." Let me go to Home Depot, grab a rope, and let me just prevent this from happening.
You go to Home Depot with a recorder.
Yeah.
Hell no.
Bang out some paint
Yeah, if you
cans.
want UI sounds, it's just
Absolutely not. It's bad.
I use a synthesizer and I just like. Bloop.
yeah. It's so easy to make UI sounds.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, it is not. Don't give me. Excuse me. I have 75 libraries of UI sounds.
Well,
and
that's your
all of them
problem.
are- Absolutely. No.
You get a
I'm like,
microphone and you make your own. It's
No,
easy.
no. Even whenever I make my own, I'm like, okay, I want to
There
make
you
it
go.
sound like
There's
this.
UI.
I want it, like the worst one is Undead Darlings, because when I worked on the UI sounds, I took 2 months on this shit, and it was one. There was like one is like for whenever we don't have voice acting for part of it, it's like the for the people talking, for the typing shit, and I'm like, okay, I want it to sound like a typewriter, but not have the aesthetic of like the. And then I was like, okay, so I made something that matched each person's fucking pitch of like voice for that sound, and that was a level of stress. But even like the intro screen made me want to die, because I'm like, okay, it has to be like sparkly and kind of creepy at the same time. All right. Yeah. And
Sparkle
then, like,
creep, it's a thing.
yeah. And then like whenever you reach the end.
Oh yeah. Oh, you do, right? You do UI, Becky?
No, but like all my weird percussion sounds are like exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, she plays percussion. She plays like literally every
We're gonna
percussion
talk.
instrument ever
we're gonna
made.
Talk and we're gonna become best friends after this. But yeah, that shit stresses me out more than anything. Someone can be like, make a 75 song dark orchestra track. I'm like, hell yeah, we in this, boys. But you're saying like, make me 3 UI sounds by the end of the week, and I'm like,
Send that shit over to me, man.
it's like the
Yeah.
Titanic looking at the iceberg, and I'm just like, we don't have enough time.
Well, yeah, right.
I'll take care of it in a weekend.
Yeah.
No.
When I did a
I
deep,
would afford all my UI shit to you. I'll pay you. I don't give a shit.
Send it over.
Yeah.
See, connections. This
yeah,
is how
there
this
you go,
shit works.
exactly. When I did a defragmented, I had to do like the similar kind of typing sound when they're talking, and I just went to my keyboard and was like, click, 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 click. All right, it's done. There we
A
go.
lot of
Cool.
my UI sounds is using a microphone very similar to this.
Yeah. And you just-
Anyway, I think we are very out of time.
no, keep going.
They still have
They
not
haven't
stopped
kicked us out. But I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know.
we're gonna stay here until they kick us out. So you close the doors. Close the doors. You're all stuck here.
Okay.
This panel
Well,
never
either way,
ends.
when we do get kicked out, we do have like business cards.
Yeah,
and I have
yeah.
some buttons and
And
stuff.
I'll be standing around like a jackass for a little
You
bit.
can
Yeah.
share
we
your-
can,
you
we're,
can
we'll
share
go
your Monster
outside
drink.
and
No,
pass
you
around the monster
yeah, you
drink.
can make people see colors
It's
that don't
almost
exist.
empty. That's
no.
why I've gotten
Damn.
more and more
Damn.
lively through this.
All right, well, everybody, I guess that's it.
Unless there are more questions.
Yeah, are there more
Does anybody-
questions? Close the doors.
Oh,
Oh, we have a question.
I was just curious, when you do sound design, do you usually make your own sound effects from real objects, or do you also buy sound effects?
Mixture of both.
a mixture of both. Yeah.
I shove potato chips in my mouth and I just.
Honestly,
And
I
do
do a
stuff like
lot of
that.
I do a lot of mouth sounds for sound effects.
Oh,
and like
my
you can
God,
make
yeah.
like you can like do crazy cool sound effects
And then
with
just
your mouth.
process it?
And then you can do processing. Again, with like the kazoo and just any effects that you can find, you can do some really cool stuff with that. Like
Yep.
buying packs is nice for things that you either don't know how to make or can't make yourself, but
It's
just
also good for
taking 'em-
speed.
Yeah,
I
and
just
for
want to point
speed.
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
If you're pressed for time, then
Yeah.
buy a pack. But just getting a portable microphone or getting a microphone that can connect to your computer and just running around your house banging on shit, you
It's
can get
so
a
much
lot
fun.
done.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more fun. It's a lot more personal.
Yeah.
And it's unique. And I think a lot of people appreciate that.
So like the neighbors, like are just like, and I'm just like, it goes together really well.
Oh boy.
I do a mixture of both. Like for like there's so like for a lot of stuff for like the key sound effects, the things that are gonna happen most often, those are the ones that I design the most. Those are the ones that I like have hands on. But if there's like one-offs or things that are like the most important things get personal touch, the least important things get a library pull, and I spend 5 minutes on them. Fuck them. And and like that's the big thing. The things that you're gonna have the most value are gonna be the things that you work on the most, and like it can decline after the fact, because like the thing like footsteps. If your game has bad footsteps, I
yeah,
will
it
be
sucks.
fucking infuriated. My favorite game of last year, Horizon Zero Dawn, had amazing sound effects. But the problem was the volume of the footsteps were so fucking loud that I couldn't appreciate the rest of the god. But anyway, so like, but like, so as far as like footsteps goes, like as far as like all the sounds for a game goes, like focus on what's going to happen the most often.
Being very cogent of that stuff,
or what's the biggest priority sound. So like a reward sound, highest priority. Above the most repetitious, highest priority or rewards. Those things had to be amazing.
Any sound associated with a monster or attack, a telegraph,
Mm-hmm.
that is like highest priority because it needs to cut through the entire mix.
So establish a hierarchy of priority and structure off of that, and then that's how you do everything. But yeah, if it's like a one-off, like grass, like blowing in the breeze or some shit, you better library that because if you spend more
Or
than
just
5
Ben
minutes.
can do it for you.
Yeah, that. or just use paper, like.
Oh yeah, that works too.
Yeah. Like.
I'm gonna demonstrate.
Yeah.
This is now the ASMR panel. Hello,
like
everybody.
Yeah, like filter the shit out of that, and it suddenly becomes grass. Like every time you hear rain in a film, it's bacon frying.
Oh yeah.
Every single time. So like that's the easiest one to describe. Like sound association is very much so the visual reference that you get and the way your brain plugs it in to be like, okay, this is fine. And so like, so realistically, like establish a hierarchy of most important to least important and follow that to the T as far as like what gets sound banked and what gets personally made.
Yep.
Also, if you're trying to make blood splatter, get hair gel, put it on a wooden plank, put a washcloth over it, let it dry slightly, and then peel the washcloth off. And suddenly you get like the worst sound humanly imaginable, and then you just squirt the of like the hair gel onto the ground. That's the blood splatter. That's the flesh peel, the one that I was telling you
you
with
can
the
also
washcloth.
just take a watermelon and just punch the shit out of it.
It's good.
It's
used.
It's therapeutic too.
Yeah. And you can eat the watermelon when you're done.
That sound is used in a playable teaser of a video game on PS4.
I wonder which one.
Wonder.
Oh. Yeah. So, are there other questions? We have not been thrown out yet. This is miraculous. Usually we what? Oh.
So
were we supposed to leave like 20 minutes ago?
If you have any other questions, we'll be outside.
Yes.
Yeah. Feel free
Were we
to.
supposed to leave?